Hi, welcome to Learning Monkey. I'm Vikram. In this class, we'll try to understand CSS units. And this video is, the concepts in this video are very important to understand. So, and these concepts are a bit logical in comparison with other concepts. So watch this video as many times as possible until you get the clarity. So what are CSS units? CSS units are used for sizing and spacing elements. Whenever we want to size or provide spacing around an element or the content of an element, then we use CSS units. So we have already used these units in our previous videos. For example, if you take font size, a paragraph font size. Font size, so far we have used pixels, 10 pixels. Okay, so that pixels is what we call it as units. First, what we will do is, there are different types of units that are available. So these are all the units that are available. So far in our previous videos, we have used these two units, pixels and percentages. Now we will try to understand each and unit in detail. Among all these units, pixels is an absolute unit. So what does that mean is, the size of if the size or spacing is mentioned in pixels means it is going to be fixed. Absolute means fixed. And if you mention the size or space by using percentages or any of these units, they are relative. Means they are relative with respect to certain value. So what are those values? That we will try to understand. First, we will try to understand what is this pixel units and why it is absolute. So first, what we will do is, we will consider this image. Let's assume that this is the size of your device and you are watching this image on a device, and this is the width of your viewport or your screen. Now this small possible box is what we call it as pixel, and the count of all these pixels is going to be the count of your viewport. For example, if there are 1000 pixels, 1000 small boxes, so the viewport width is 1000 pixels. And similarly, the height. If you consider all these boxes, let's assume that these are 1000 pixels, 1000 boxes, means the height of your screen is, so this is how the screen will get divided. So your screen width is going to be pixel count, and your screen height is also going to be pixel count. Your height and width of your screen will be mentioned with respect to the pixels, and that smallest possible box is what we call it as pixel. And this is how the images will displayed on your screen. See, every small box, this is black color, red color. By combining all these colors with the color codes, you are going to get the effect of image. So this is how the images will get displayed. Okay. So now what we will do is, we will try to understand this concept, these units concepts, by using an example. So let's go on to our Visual Studio Code. Here is the example that I have taken. I have taken a simple div, and I am using the style sheet, external style sheet. Here is our style sheet. And for this div, I have given a border, the border property, and this is how the things are looking like. So these are all the values for your border. So let's see the output so that we can get an idea. So this is how the output is looking like. Okay, means your entire div, the div is occupying the entire width of your screen, entire width of your viewport. Okay, try to understand that. Now what we will do is, we'll try to change the width of your division. So what happens and why the pixel units is fixed, that also we'll try to understand. So initially what we will give is, I will give the width is equal to, let's make it 700 pixels, or let's make it 500 pixels. 500 pixels means the width of your division is going to be 500 pixels only. Okay, so let's see the output. See, this is what 500 pixels means. We'll make it still smaller so that you can sense that. Okay, 300 pixels I made it. So this is what we call it as 300 pixel width. Okay, so and this is fixed. How can we say that this is fixed? For example, if you change the screen size, you just change the screen size. See here, this is not changing, the width is not changing, and for this to see, a scroll bar is getting created, still the width is remaining the same. Try to understand this. So this is what we call it as absolute unit. That is the reason why we call the pixels as absolute units. It is fixed units. Now what we will do is we will change the width to percentages. So I will make it as 30%, or let's make it 50%. Now what does this mean? What does this percentage means is, out of this entire width of your screen, this particular division width should always be 50%. Now it becomes responsive. Let's see that. Okay, so this is what 50% width means. Now I want to change. So let's assume that the width of this viewport is 1000 pixels. What does 50% of 1000 pixels means? It is 500 pixels. Now if I change the width of the screen, see here, the width of your div is also changing. Means as the screen size is getting reduced, the number of pixels will get reduced, right? And based upon the number of pixels of your viewport. For example, previously it is 1000 pixels, it is fixed. Now as we have mentioned it as 50%, and we are changing the screen size. Let's assume that the 1000 pixel size has been reduced, the screen size has been reduced from 1000 pixels to 800 pixels. Now 50% of that screen size means it is 400 pixels. So that is how the percentage unit is going to be responsive. With respect to your viewport width, the percentage is dependent. So if I change my screen size, if I change my viewport width, means the browser is getting reduced, means the browser size is changing, means assume that the screen size is changing. Physically it is not changing, but logically it is changing. Try to understand that. See, the width of your viewport is changing, and out of that width that is available, this division is going to occupy 50% of its total width. That is why we call it as relative units. Try to understand this. I am stressing this point again and again because this point is very important to understand for responsiveness. If you want your web pages to be responsive, understanding these units is very important. Otherwise you will get confused. So there are lots of practical problems if you are not good at these concepts. Okay, so now this is what percentage means. And what about the next units? The other units is VW and VH. VW stands for viewport width. Now out of that, it is same as that of percentage, there is no difference. VW means based upon your viewport width, occupy the 50% part. And similarly VH is for height of your viewport. So for example, if your height of your viewport is, let's make it as 30 VH, means out of your entire viewport height, only 30% of your viewport is the height of your div. Let's see the output so that we can get the clarity. See, this is what we call it as 30 VH. 30% of your total pixels. If it is 1200 pixels, 30% of those 1200 pixels. Try to understand this. Okay, so this is how these units will help you to create responsive web pages. And we are left with another two units, which is EMs and REMs, EM and REM. So what is this EM and REM? EM and REM are also responsive, what we call it as responsive units, means they are relative to other units. So now in this case, in EMs, it is relative to the font size of your element. So whatever may be the font size of your element, based upon that font size, based upon the font size of your element, these units will be dependent. So we'll try to understand that by using an example. So I'm just removing this height, and what I will do is I'll make the font size of this element as let's make it 40 pixels. I'm making it as 40 pixels, and I'll make it as 5 EMs. Now EMs are relative to the font size of your element. Your element font size is 40 pixels. Now 5 EMs means 5 times 1 EM is equal to 40 pixels. 5 EMs means 40 into 5, 200 pixels. Try to understand this, 200 pixels. So let's see the output. So the div is, see, the font size is 40 pixels and 5 into 40, 200 pixels. So we will try to understand this in our developer tools. Let's see that. See here. For example, this is your div, and what is the width of this div? See here. Here we will be able to see that 200 pixels. The width of your div is 200 pixels. For example, if I change this to 6 ems, let's see the output. 6 ems. Now the width has been increased to 240 pixels. See here. Here it is 240 pixels. Try to understand this. The relativeness of your M is dependent upon the font size of your element. What about rem? And this is not acceptable. So these M units are not frequently used. So, but rems are used very frequently. So what is the use of rem? Rem is based upon the root's font size. So what is this root? Root is a pseudo selector. We haven't discussed about pseudo selectors, but just remember that root is a pseudo selector, and by using this root, whatever the styles that we give, those styles will be applicable to all your elements in your entire web application. So root itself is stating that these styles will be applicable to all the elements in your entire web page. If you want to change it, you have to change it at that particular element. So by default, the root styles will get applicable. So what I will do is, so I will make the font size of your entire web page, entire application to be, let's make it as 16 pixels. See, let's make it as 16 pixels. Now if this 40 pixels is not there, what happens? The font size is going to be 16 pixels. And let's make it as, comment this out. So let's see this. Now, see here, what is this? What is the div? Div width is, okay, let's see the output. So the div, see here. So now let's uncomment this, that will be helpful. Now here the root is, font size is 16 pixels, but here if you want to change that root value, 16 pixels, if you want to change that default 16 pixels root value, you have to mention that in your specific element. For this element, the font size is going to be 40 pixels. For all the remaining elements, it is always going to be 16 pixels. So that is the use of root pseudo selector. Within that root pseudo selector, whatever the properties that you are going to give, those properties will be applicable to all the elements in your application. Try to understand this. Okay. Now, what we will do is, we will remove this and we will use the width with respect to rems. Now here it is 16 pixels. Now I am going to make it as 5 rem. 5 into 16. The width is going to be 80 pixels. So the rem units are relative to the root value. So what is the root value? Root value means the font size. So the root value is going to be 16 pixels. So here root font size value, sorry. The rem units are dependent upon the root font size value. But whereas M is dependent upon the element's font size value. So what is the root font size value? It is 16 pixels. Now width is 5 rem. 5 into 16, which is 80 pixels. Let's see the output. So where there you're going to get the clarity. See here, for example, if you take this div, see here, the styling is available here. If we take this div and the width of this div is 80 pixels, how we got that 80 pixels? Because the root font size is 16 pixels. Based upon the root font size value, the rems are dependent. What is the advantage that we are going to get? For example, if the screen size is changing, if you change the root font size, then all the widths of your elements will get changed. So for that font size, for that screen size, you make the root font size as from 16 pixels to 10 pixels. So we are going to get the responsive web designs by using these rems and ems. Hope you got the clarity. Okay, once again. So if the root's font size is 16 pixels, and as the screen size is changing, so for this screen size, if you make the root's font size as 10 pixels, what happens? All the sizes will get compressed, right? So that is the use of. So anyways, this is bit complex to understand. We will try to understand all these concepts whenever we go to the responsiveness. Hope you got the clarity on this concept. Thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please subscribe to our channel and press bell icon for the latest updates. If you have any doubts regarding this concept, please post your doubt in the comment section below. If you feel that this video is helpful to you, please give us a like and please share this video with your friends so that they will also get benefited. Thanks for watching.